How's it going?
Hey, Jeff.
Just making sure all my stuff is set up. I've had to start this new set of meetings that Honored and I are helping with. That's at 8:30 a.m. our time, and so I'm always barely finishing that meeting and jumping to this one. But we are good. All right, let me just pull up the agenda. I see we've got a good few folks here. I think we're gonna have some good discussion today. This should be a great one. So thanks in advance for joining, all you who came. I'm actually excited about this meeting today.
Good morning, good evening.
Morning, Tom. Thanks for being able to join. And for folks who are joining, this is our last Thursday stand-up for the foreseeable future, starting next time on November 10th. We'll be meeting on Tuesday, and we'll also be moving this an hour forward. But Zimianek, I think you already had daylight savings. I'm about to have daylight savings on Sunday. So maybe it's not an hour forward for you, but in general, UTC is moving forward an hour. So first things first is if you're new to this meeting or watching this recording, that's the most important thing to know because we want you to be there next time. All right, let me share the agenda here right there.
So no spooky slides today, Jeff?
No spooky slides. I got to do a live stream for Azure Functions yesterday for some of you folks, and it was spooky-tastic. Maybe I'll start using OBS when I do these KEDA stand-ups to make it more intense. Zoom is just so slick. Also Microsoft Teams, but Zoom is great. Okay, we'll jump right into it. We've got a bunch of topics here. To start with, I'm looking, I think there are a few, well, there's definitely some folks that some of you haven't met because I see like Aaron's on the call. He's got a good topic that's on the agenda as well. So maybe we'll just start and we'll kind of do a quick roundtable if folks want to just introduce themselves. I think the big one is first you can just share your name. And then if there's any topics that you want to discuss, especially if they're not already on the agenda, just feel free to flag it. And any kind of updates too. So maybe I'll start and just kind of follow this one. So I'm Jeff. I work at Microsoft on Azure Functions and on KEDA. The only update I have before we go into some of the agenda things, I spent a little bit of time this week and updated the samples. So when you go to the samples list, we break down what's a 2.0 sample, what's a 1.0 sample, and then I moved some of the samples like RabbitMQ to 2.0. A few of them I'm blocked on. Because anything that has Azure Functions, we're waiting for some core tool stuff that Tom's helping with. That's the big thing. And then there's been a few Azure customers who are using KEDA in Azure Kubernetes. There's about 3 of them that recently I've been having about an hour deep dive with. I actually have one. Oh, crap. Oh, no, that's tomorrow. I have an hour deep dive tomorrow with a finance company. I was terrified because I haven't prepared my slides. So that's it. I'm going to go down the list and call folks out. Tom, you are next on my list, so I will let you go.
My name's Tom Kerkhoff, and I'm an Azure architect for Codit in Belgium.
Great. Any updates or items that aren't on the agenda?
No.
Great. Aaron, you are next on my list.
Hey, all. My first time at this meeting. I'm Aaron. I work as a cloud advocate, focused on Kubernetes and Go at Microsoft. I'm excited to show this demo today. Been working with KEDA for months, but on KEDA, just started. I submitted 2 like tiny little PRs, and then this thing that I'll show today. So thanks for having me.
Great. I'm very excited. I haven't even seen this. I've only read about it, so I'm actually very excited as well. Anirudh, I see you next.
Hi, I'm Anirudh. I work with Jeff on the Azure Functions team in Microsoft.
Great. And I want to get your name right. Ikaika? Maybe I'll let you say your name.
It's Ikaika. Yeah, you got it right, actually.
Ikaika, great.
Hey, how's it going? Or you can call me Kai.
Okay, sweet.
I'm a DevOps engineer at Carvana. I'm actually new to this meeting. And I saw it actually posted in the KEDA chat, and I just thought I'd just jump on and see what it's like.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for joining. Feel free to listen in and chime in if anything pops up. So thanks for joining. And did I spell Carvana right? It's not super important, but just curious.
Yeah, you spelled it correctly.
Sweet. Didn't know if it was going to be a K or something. All right, back on my list, James.
I'm James Dang. I work with Kyle over at Carvana on the DevOps team.
Sweet.
This is my first time on the call as well.
Great. Thank you as well for joining. All right, next I have M. Hossein. M. Hossein, I don't know if you want to unmute and just quickly introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mir, MIR. I work for, I'm a software engineering manager at a company called Linkia.
Linkier, like that?
LINQIA.
QYA, like that?
QIA.
Got it. Sweet. Anything, or just kind of dialing in, listening in, any topics you want to make sure we add to the agenda that we have save some time for?
Yes, so me and Shoshik, we work for the same company, and we wanted to create a PR, and just wanted, before we create the PR, we make sure that what do you like about the idea.
Great. Sweet. Yeah, we'll definitely take some time to chat about that. Thanks for joining me here. And on that, Shashik, maybe we'll go to you next.
My name's Shashik. I work as a backend engineer at the same company, Linkia. Just wanted to discuss that PR. We've been using KEDA for about a few months now. It's been really helpful for us. So just wanted to see if that PR contribution would be worthwhile.
Absolutely. I have a feeling that we're all going to be fans, but who knows? Maybe you're doing something crazy and we all have an allergic reaction to it. Thanks both for joining. All right, Ritika.
Hi everyone, I'm Ritika I work in NEC and we are just investigating KEDA for something in our company. And thanks for having me.
Great. Any topics I should add here, or just listening in?
Yeah, for now, just listening. But we are interested in KEDA and to investigate and see if we can understand more of KEDA.
Sure. Yeah. Feel free to chime in with any questions. And where did you say you were working?
I work in NEC in India.
Yep, like this?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you for joining. Great to have you. All right, we are almost there. I've saved some of the best for last. Shubham.
Hello everyone. I work for NEC with Ritika. We are investigating the KEDA for one of our projects, and we are work for NEC.
NEC. Okay, sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, NEC.
Great.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for joining, Shubham. All right, last I think is Zibyanek, who needs no introduction, but I will let him introduce himself regardless.
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, my name is Zbigniew. I'm working as an engineer at that serverless team.
Sweet.
And no other topics than what's on the agenda.
All right, let us jump into it then, because we do have a bit, and I do want to make sure we have time for this demo and discussion. This is a topic I know Tom loves. And Tom, I don't know if you have to take off early, so should we jump to that one first? Or are you going to be able to stick around? Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I can stay.
Great. All right, so let's talk about KEDA 2.0. We had recently, if I come over here to our releases tab, we had 2.0 RC2 6 days ago, which had the new IBM MQ scaler and a few of these PR merges stuck in. We just want to checkpoint and see. Oh, and I actually am curious on this Helm stuff because I haven't dug into it yet, but something happened with Helm too. Anyway, I'll just pause. Any thoughts on 2.0? How do we feel about the go live release of 2.0 official? And then Helm, I guess Zibyanek, Tom, anyone else, if you want to chime in and kind of give an update on where we're at.
Maybe I can start. So thank you, sorry, Tom. Yeah, so I guess that we are on a good way. So we have received a couple of small fixes from the RC2. So and Tsuyoshi did a great job on fixing the memory leak problem. It was like the biggest issue we had. So I guess that if nothing occurs, like anything serious, we can release the release next week. probably, I don't know, maybe on Wednesday or something like that in the middle of the week. So yeah, that's it. Maybe I will keep it on Tom for the Helm issues.
I noticed a few of those Helm issues in GitHub issues. I worked on Helm for a while, so if someone is stuck there and wants a hand, just DM me on Kubernetes Slack or whatever.
So the issue was that I got rid of Helm 2 support, so I got rid of the CRD webhook.
Perfect.
And our CI didn't test the deployment, so apparently I broke the Helm chart, so I reverted that.
Okay.
So we need to, basically migrate to full Helm API version 2 again, but make sure the CRDs are still installing correctly. So it's the first issue, which is shipped as of today with the RC3, which just reverts the Helm 2.
Okay, I'll comment on that issue then. Just
okay.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah, sorry. So Tom, so the issue is like maybe not about releasing the Helm 2, but about fixing the charts. So if we are able to fix the charts that they work with just the Helm 3, it is okay, right?
Yes, yeah. So I just reverted to that so that people can test RC2. But in theory, we can remove.
Yeah. So the goal is if we can get rid of the problems with the Helm charts in general, we will release just the Helm 3 version, right?
Yeah. We can release Helm chart separately.
Cool.
And I will reopen the removal of Helm 2 issue.
I'm just, it sounds like Zibek, you've got a good sense of this. So like the work required here, we reverted removing Helm 2. We're still hoping to remove Helm 2, but we can't do it until we fix Helm 3 2.0 charts.
Yeah, so I just have to take some more time to have a look at it, or if somebody else wants to do it. But if we ship KEDA 2.0 stable already, we can still remove Helm 2 support and ship the Helm chart version 3 with KEDA 2.
Okay,
So
and is there a fair, is there an easy repro? I just, because like we have this Helm chart that does, oh, maybe it doesn't work. Do any of our 2.0 Helm charts work?
2.0 RC2 didn't work, and this morning I shipped RC3, which works now again.
The Helm chart does. The 2.0 RC3 Helm chart works.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also extended the CI so that it also now deploys the Helm chart on a kind cluster.
So I guess the last one is, what doesn't work right now? If Helm 2.0.0/RC3 works.
Because that one still has Helm 2 support, which is
okay, I see.
Losing support. It actually is no longer supported, so I just want to get rid of it.
Yep.
That's it.
What does it mean to remove Helm 2 support? Is it just that like we remove those CRD hooks that throw an error, and so like we don't actually have to opt out, it would just break if it stopped doing it?
Yeah, you can see in the PR what I did. So just bump the version, remove the webhooks, the CR hooks, but they're not really installing correctly in that case. So we have to look why. But well, I'm also busy with the blog post, so.
Yep, that's fine. I think we can, I'll see if I can get an ACK back on, see if this is something we can do. I think I was the one who actually did the PR to do the Helm 3 support. So I have done some of this before. Maybe I can even spend some cycles tonight and see if anything jumps out. But not a Helm expert. So we'll see. Probably less of one than even you, Tom. So, all right, that's great. So the Helm one, obviously it would be great if we can fix that before Wednesday. Should we tentatively plan on doing 2.0 full on Wednesday? Any reason we don't want to? Maybe that's a better question. Sounds like we want to. All right.
Yes.
And then we'll have to do a few things at the time. I can work on Azure application, specifically like an Azure update or maybe an open source at Microsoft blog post. Tom, you mentioned a blog post. I don't know if this is one of the different like use case blog posts do we want to do a blog post on KEDA.sh? And if so, I can write it, or if somebody else wants to write, I know we have the one on beta, and so it might be pulling some of the cool stuff from here and just saying like, hey, 2.0 live is now.
There's a Google Doc which we're working on for the KEDA.sh website.
Is it on? Oh yeah, so it's in KEDA docs repo.
No, I just pasted the comment in the chat.
Great.
Yeah, so the idea is that we will like highlight some like the main features and probably some some kind of developer user experience like goodies.
Sweet.
Why should you move and what's the benefit? This kind of things.
And it's possible that the Azure amplification one might go out on like November 7th after this has already passed, but I'll see. Sometimes they have like these weird things around links not working and they don't approve it until the links actually work end to end, but we'll see what we do. Anything else we have to do from the release process? Who would be I guess, who wants to take on the ownership of this? I guess us maintainers, we could probably close on this offline. We don't have to close it here.
Yeah, I'll work on the document tomorrow.
Okay.
One of the long open standing things on my side.
Yeah, one more little thing regarding this. So probably we can move like the development back to the master branch, or we should probably rename it to main, right?
Oh yeah.
Since GitHub is so. We can probably do this change like right before the release. So I can do that. I can like update the references and all the stuff. So we will have like the main branch, which will be the latest for the version 2, and I will create like a V1 branch, which will hold the old code for the V1 version in case we will need some kind of security fixes or something like that.
Then we just need to make sure that the website also uses main and not master, like we have already.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I just updated the samples repo to main last night, but obviously that was a super easy repo to update. It wasn't hooked up to anything, but I felt good about it.
That's what counts.
Yes. All right. This is exciting. November 4th, unless something terrible arises. That's super exciting. All right. Before we get to the demo, last one here, Tom, you wanted to chat a bit about the stand-up moves, which I guess I teased. I'll let you just comment on, because I know you weren't here last time when we talked about this some too.
No, so I'm having a bit the issue that it's harder for me to join in the current time slot. So I was wondering if we can move it 1 hour earlier.
Sure. And I know the only big concern there was
it's early for the US.
So I can do it at least for a few months because it would just be once a week.
Yeah, I think it's same here, especially since all of us are working from home now. So I think I'm also fine. I can also do it. No problem.
Yeah, are you sure? I don't want to push this to people. Just to be
no,
clear.
I think it's fine. It's fine. It's really fine.
Yeah, or we can like do a compromise, maybe move it for 30 minutes. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm happy with like all the options. So it's up to you guys.
60, Zivyanek and Tom, I'm apt to give you overly weighted votes because you are doing a ton here in this space. Is 1600 easier for you, like full stop, than 1700 UTC?
Yes, for me, definitely.
Okay, sold. And at last chance, I know I gave them a lot of weight, but I love all of the people on the call. Is anybody here have a negative reaction to 1600? Or maybe in chat you can say +1. I'm actually calling from a terrible time zone right now, and it's like 10 o'clock at night, and that's great for me. But I think this is fair, Tom, and I think we can do this. So I'll keep an eye on chat.
I completely agree, Jeff. I think we should.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, I think both Tom and Zibnik are KEDA right today. So we have. So if you would have said 3 a.m. in the night for us, we would not have joined, but I think we would have done it.
we would have supported it. November 10th.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Tuesdays at 1600 UTC, which is an hour earlier for folks who have daylight savings. And maybe for those who don't, congratulations. Daylight savings is weird anyway. All right. Anything else on stand-up, Tom? Or it mostly just the time one? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so Tom, the answer is we are not wanting to get rid of you yet. We will bring this up again in 3 months and maybe we'll change it. But at least we know
Okay,
whenever we want to get rid of you, we'll all just vote to move the stand-up to 2 hours later.
Yeah. Okay. I'll update all the community sections again tomorrow.
Sweet, sweet. All right, now we get on to the fun stuff. Aaron, I'm just going to turn the time over to you. I think you should have permission to share your screen or do whatever else. I'll just give the time to you and you can give a bit of background here and start the conversation.
Sweet. Let's see, share screen. Host disabled, participant screen sharing.
Oh, I will give you permission right now. Let's take care of this. All right. I might not be able to share now, but I don't care. I just made you the host. So if you can't share now, I don't know what else to do.
The power's in my hands. Okay.
Great.
So let me open the repo first. We just spun up like a little test prototype repo for this. The background here is we were looking for a way to get a pretty easy experience to take a container, get it into Kubernetes, get an SSL cert and a domain, and of course, auto scaling as well. So we had been using KEDA for a while, and that was kind of a pretty natural choice to get that auto scaling component. And the rest of the machinery behind the scenes is pretty much a little control plane to set up all the other machinery, like ingress and services and the deployment that's going to be scaled and everything else. And then a CLI on the front end for the developer who wants to push the container up to the cluster and get it on the, quote unquote, production ready on the internet. So before I go to a little demo, there are 3 components of this thing. And what we were looking at is to see what, if any of these components make sense inside of KEDA versus what makes sense as like a complement to KEDA. And then if some of it is a complement to KEDA, then like where should it go? Should it be outside the KEDA outside the KEDA org, inside the KEDA org, whatever? That's kind of a secondary discussion. So anyway, there's a CLI, of course, I mentioned, and then what we've called the proxy is really one process, but it should be broken out into 3. So there is a sort of a control plane for how do you deploy the container. There's an external scaler implementation, which is external only. It'll probably turn into an external push at some point. And then there's a reverse proxy as well. And the reverse proxy is basically a hop between ingress and the backend, the actual app that's scaling. That doesn't really need to be there. That could just be your standard ingress controller, but it was a little bit easier for us to build for reasons at the outset. So let me just show a quick demo because I think that'll kind of show the feel, the experience, the developer experience we were trying to achieve, and then I'll show some of the back end as well, how that works sort of on top of the developer experience. So open another tab here. So I have this KHP command line tool. Right now, we've called this thing KEDA HTTP for lack of a better term, better name. Right now, it just has a run and remove. So run takes in like the name of the quote app and then a container and some other metadata. And then behind the scenes, I have K9S, the little dashboard running that is just going to show like the scale up, scale down stuff. And all of this is in a namespace. I kept everything into inside of one namespace. So there's KEDA running here, and then there's that proxy component, which is really, like I mentioned before, the ingress, external scaler, and the little control plane that this CLI is talking to. So let me do a KHP run. I've got this little XKCD comics renderer. So -I is going to specify I want to run that image. -P is going to be I want to run it on port 8080. And we kept the interface to this to start with. There's more we can do, of course. And we were looking at exposing like a YAML-based but simpler type of interface, like maybe the sort of your Docker Compose like interface or something else on the same level of simplicity, to be sort of one step beyond and one step more level of control than the CLI, but not having to go all the way whole hog into I need to learn all of the Kubernetes YAML to get this thing to work. So anyway, it is just the CLI for now. So I'm running that deployed app. You've got your XKCD thing running. All the other stuff is available as well. Scaled object. K9S is, there we go. So you've got your XKCD scaled object now, and then there's services. This is really slow. Services are there, and there's more. There's a deployment there. There's an ingress there. There's a bunch of other stuff there as well. But sort of the CLI took care of all of it. And the developer, the person using the cluster, didn't have to care. The KEDA operator, not this KEDA operator, the actual person who installed KEDA and who is operating the cluster has a record of all of this happening inside of that control plane. So you also get a subdomain, and this is kind of fudged at this point for the prototype, but we have a PR in that uses the HTTP application router to get a real automatic subdomain containing creating thing. But for now, it's fudged. I'll just show the web app. Just renders XKCD comics via the comic ID. So just for fun, let me put it in chat. Y'all can play around with it. And you can put whatever ID you want in that query string. So the last thing I'll show, just to prove that it works, and it's on KEDA, I'll scale it up and down. Let's do 200,000 requests, concurrency of 2,000, xkcd.containerapps.dev. Let that run. And I think I set KEDA to a polling interval. I think it's 10 seconds, maybe. Might be 30. So this might, oh no, okay. Yeah, so KEDA scales up the ingress and the actual app. We may change how this works, or we may think of more about how this works at least, but yeah, that's KEDA obviously working, and that's sort of, I show this because this, sort of the proof that all the machinery, scaled object, everything else was set up, and KEDA is working properly to scale this thing up. And then scale down. This will take a little bit longer, so I won't hold up the rest of the meeting with this. But basically, this goes into cooldown, just like any other KEDA app, and then starts scaling everything down back to scalar proxy will scale down to 1, and then this XKCD thing will eventually scale down to 0, but that'll take longer.
Does
so
it also support scale to 0?
Yeah, this one, the actual app, the one that the person deployed, will scale to 0, and then we didn't scale the proxy down to 0, just because it needs to be up and running to route to other apps as well as this app.
But it will scale the proxy to only one instance in this case then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
And is the proxy like holding the request, like when you have the application scaled to 0?
Yeah. Right now, it doesn't really hold the request very well, for lack of a better term. I think it has a timeout of 20 seconds and we should probably be a little bit smarter about how long it waits. It could probably have a little bit more. Now it could be smarter about it. It could look at the back end, look to see if there's a pod currently pending, and then hold it for longer than that. But yeah, right now it's dumb. It just holds it for 20 seconds and times out if KEDA hasn't spun up the back end yet.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, this is really cool. As I mentioned, I hadn't seen this before. I just read about it. Super exciting. The question I have, and this is part my ignorance on how all of the proxy stuff could work. Would I, like, if I wanted to use Nginx, for example, for like my ingress, and I do like Let's Encrypt certificates, could I use that with this, or when I use this proxy, does that replace my ingress for that app?
You could use it with this, but really this proxy shouldn't be a proxy. It should probably just create a new ingress object and let Nginx do all the magic. And then this would be one less piece of machinery then. You could offload the proxying off to Nginx. But right now, Nginx could point to this proxy and things would still work. It would just be another kind of unnecessary hop, to be honest with you.
Sure. Yeah, and it would only be like, I can do things like the auto cert bot thing on Nginx, and that was the only one. If it's like, okay, if I go with this approach, what happens to those capabilities? So it was just trying to map it together. But yeah, any other questions from folks? Conversation topics?
Yeah, I have maybe a couple of questions. So this proxy is being created for one proxy is created for each basically application, or is it like shared among all the applications?
Yeah, it's shared. They're all just multi-tenant, and they match the subdomain to the service name. The cluster, there's a cluster IP service per application. So right now they are stateful because they keep the metrics that they're like tightly coupled with the metrics API, the external scaler, excuse me. So they keep state on how many requests are coming through so that they can feed it into KEDA. But they should be broken out so the proxy can be just completely stateless. Right now it's multi-tenant anyway, so it would make a lot of sense to be able to have it stateless and then be able to scale it up and down. And then it can you can spread them out all across the cluster.
And if I understand it correctly, like all the objects and everything is created through the CLI. So have you been thinking about like creating some controller or some operator that will manage the resources? Because basically, if I manually delete for example, the ingress or any other object, it won't be reconciled, right?
Right. Yeah. Right now, the CLI talks to a tiny little REST API actually that's in the proxy, and yeah, we have to make that better. I think you're right. Maybe the best approach is to have an app object. I don't know, but maybe the best approach is put an app object into Kubernetes, and then, like you said, have a controller running that reconciles it.
Or you can create, like, let's say, if you define in the scaled object the external like, let's say, scaler, the one that you are using, and you can probably parse the metadata in the scaler, and the scaler itself could be the controller that creates all the objects based on the metadata in the scaled object.
Oh yeah, that'd be even cleaner, I think. Yeah. I should actually I'll actually take back that statement that we shouldn't have a proxy, or we could get rid of it completely. The one reason why you might want to have one is this thing. I've seen this thing in Knative that's called an activator, and that's basically kind of a background controller that's smart enough to know whether there is a pod running for an app, and when there is a pod running, it updates the ingress object to point directly to that service. When there's not a pod running, the ingress object points to it, and that's when it holds the request until there's a pod running. It forwards the request and then updates to point the ingress to that pod. So that's, as far as I've thought through, that's the one reason why this, quote unquote proxy component should be around, should be a thing.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. To me, in terms of, in Aaron, I guess I'll let you ask if you have questions around next steps. Like, this is a common enough scenario that I get asked about, which is like, hey, I'm using KEDA. How do I do it with HTTP? That I would love to figure out how we could first class this in many ways too. Like, I think we at one point tried to integrate with Osiris. Osiris did things slightly differently, but in general, I think the big problem was like Osiris just kind of is on the shelf from everything that it looks like from that repo. I think it would make sense to figure out what parts of this, like I would imagine things like that proxy would probably be a separate project that's related to KEDA that maybe even we make it super easy to pop in with it.
Yeah.
But it would be like KEDA core / whatever, KEDA-HTTP. I don't know exactly how to pull things apart, but I would love to see how we could start to move this and whether pieces of improvements or functionality go into the main KEDA core. At the very least, making it really easy for people to opt into this additional functionality is something I would love to see progress being made on.
Yeah, I would see it as an add-on as well.
Yeah, and I can break this up. I'm not going to break it up in the code, but I can break it up conceptually, and I can write sort of a proposal as well, because there's a lot in here that is out of scope from KEDA, but there may be parts like maybe Zvinek, maybe something like the controller that knows how to keep X number of Kubernetes resources in the cluster. That maybe some limited version of that might make sense in the cluster, in KEDA core. So I can write up a proposal, and then we can, keep the discussion going in GitHub issues if that's okay, or if there's a better way. I'm open to that too.
If it's easier, we can also use a Google Doc.
Okay, I'll do that.
I don't know which you prefer.
No, it's up. Which do you prefer? I'm new to the project, so you tell me.
But maybe the issue is like more transparent for like other folks that are not like directly involved. So if they like search for the HTTP and KEDA, they will find the issue immediately. So you can open the issue, put a proposal in there, and maybe link the document in there if you want to put it in the document.
That's what I was thinking. And that way, like as we have comments or evolve, you don't have to kind of like event source the GitHub issue to figure out what's the current state. But yeah, a GitHub issue that points to a Google Doc where we can go add comments and update and kind of have be the source of truth, I think would be fantastic. Yeah, Aaron, anything you can do to help here, and ping me if there's anything I can do as well. This is cool.
Yeah, we'll do. Cool.
Sweet. All right, so back to the agenda. We've got 2 more topics, one at least on the agenda. And let's see if I can share. Nope, I can't. Because I'm not the host anymore. It's fine though, Aaron. I'm not really sharing anything with the agenda, but if you right click me, make me the host again, then I'll share my screen whenever. The next one though is from you, Tom. I'll open the issue while I'm getting share permissions. I actually didn't read this ahead of time, so I'm not even sure what it is, but it's KEDA single source of truth for scalar metrics. So I'll pass it to you, Tom.
Was a proposal from somebody. I don't remember his name, but it was an interesting idea. Since we already scraped, let's say, all the metric sources, well, the scalar sources to make decisions on, that means we have the metrics. And his idea was to provide metrics for all of these so that they can also be used in other systems like Prometheus. We do provide some metrics already, but not on the exact metrics that we got from the dependent system. Is that a good summary, Zubnik?
I think, yeah, I guess I had some clarification questions, but I'm mostly curious on Zubnik, your thought on if this makes sense or not.
Yeah, I think it does make sense because currently as Tom said, we are like exposing some metrics in the metrics adapter, or like the stuff that is pushing the metrics to the HPA, to the actual scaling in Kubernetes. So we are exposing these metrics. But for example, if you are using scale jobs, so you are scaling your jobs, you don't have such a metrics because scaled jobs doesn't use the metrics server or metrics adapter. So
I see.
I guess it would make sense to expose the metrics directly from the KEDA. There are some like hooks already like prepared by the operator SDK framework or the QBuilder framework, so it should be pretty easy to expose them directly on KEDA operator, and it's just about like collecting the metrics and exposing them on the right interface. So I think it does make sense to have it, because then we can create some kind of nice dashboards or something like that to see like what was scaled and etc.
Sure.
The only thing I want to avoid is that we have to persist the metrics, that we don't become a new metric store.
No. I wouldn't like to, as you said, like storing the metrics like is not a good way for us, because it would add much more other things to the controller itself. But exposing them on the right interface is a great way.
So if I understand this right, I'm just going to try to echo back what I think I understand. Today, when you use scaled objects, we pull some metrics and then we publish them to our external metrics adapter, which then the HPA can pull from, which in theory works fine if I'm reading this issue right, if I'm using scaled objects. The problem is some code paths, notably scaled jobs, we don't publish the metrics to our external metrics adapter. We just use it to drive scaling decisions in the operator itself, which means that those metrics are invisible to something like Prometheus. So they're saying, could the KEDA operator itself expose a metrics endpoint so that Prometheus could go get metrics for both scaled jobs and scaled objects? Is that more or less accurate?
Yes.
And I guess the only other question I have, and I honestly don't know this, is that approach better, or is it better to just make it so that as part of scaled jobs, we publish metrics to the external metrics adapter during the jobs process?
No, the first one is much better. Like,
okay,
yeah,
cool. Yeah, it sounds like this makes sense. It sounds like it's actually not super complex, and I even see some conversation here. It looks like operator framework where I have some stuff. So yeah. I mean, Tom, I don't know what the next steps you have in mind, but I think the consensus, at least for folks on this call, and let me make sure I have chat open as well in case anyone's chiming in there, is that this feature would make sense to add in.
Yep. I'll add a comment there.
Sweet. Great. Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, so Mir had to drop off, but Shashik, I believe you are still here. And so the last item on our set agenda was discussing this PR that you were looking to open. So I'll just turn the time over to you to chat. And if you need to share your screen, let me know and I'll give you those permissions as well.
Right, yeah, I guess nothing to share. So we, for our use case, we use Kafka, a lot of Kafka, so scaling on pretty much the queue size and Kafka topics. I guess we kind of put something together for KEDA 1.0, and I guess we're looking at 2 and we realized that feature that we kind of put together isn't there in 2.0, and just wondered if maybe it would be helpful to actually create a PR for other people to use. Basically, I think how it works right now is the auto scale process, the 0 to 1 process, scaling from 0 instances to 1, occurs as soon as a single message comes into the queue. I think for our case, we found it useful to wait for a certain number of messages to accumulate before scaling from 0 to 1. And so we kind of added a flag called minimum threshold that allowed messages to accumulate until that minimum threshold is met before scaling up to 1 instance. And then after that, the HPA takes over. So I was just wondering if maybe that flag would, if maybe others see any use for that flag on production, I guess, and just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
I'll let others chime in. I definitely have some thoughts on this one, but I'll give others a chance first.
I just want to mention that I do recall that we have requests like this, like in the GitHub issues. I'm not sure if it was you guys that requested this feature, but it is over there. I can find the issue number later on, but yeah, it would be like, it would make sense to add it.
Okay.
Maybe the other question is like do we want to make this exclusive just for Kafka, or do we want to make it part of the spec, so expose it for like the other scalars as well? That's the general question, because at the moment we can put the property directly in the spec. So as we have like the maximum replicas and minimum, we can have like this field, or we can put it into the scalar spec. So like into the Kafka related.
Sure,
fields.
like up where we have min replica. Yeah. My 2 cents were like, the scenario makes a ton of sense, even coming from like the other half of my life, which is Azure Functions. This is something I hear from that side as well. So I think the pattern is sound. I don't think it's an anti-pattern in any way. Yeah, I found this issue, and I guess that is the biggest question is, like, do we build this in a way that it's unique to Kafka? Or in this case, the issue that they said, they're like, hey, I might actually want to do this with the Event Hub scaler, the RabbitMQ scaler, the Kafka scaler. And so is it something that we could first class as a pattern that either scalars opt into, or at least is consistent across them, and maybe even automatic across them? I don't know enough about the code base, but to me, that's kind of the biggest question. I think the pattern itself is super sound.
Okay. Yeah, I guess my experience is mostly with Kafka. So if we want to do it specifically for that, I can take a stab at it. If we want to make it more generic.
I would love to see like the more generic approach, because
okay.
It's like more clean from my point of view. But
I'm trying to think, Zivyanek, I know you might not know. I'm curious if there is if there is a spot where we're doing anything like this today, where like before a metric, or I guess it's just before activation. Like if we could have, whenever the activation path gets triggered, it checks to see if this property is defined and make sure that whatever metric is less than activation. I don't know if that's how the code is set up today.
Yeah, like from the just top of my mind, I guess it should be part of the like is active function. So the one that is been checking the scalars. So basically we will have to modify like the this function for all the scalars. So that would basically just do the check as you said.
And is there a way, and this is where like, is there a way that we can write that logic in one place and every scalar gets it? Or do we have to kind of go through all these scalars and add it?
Unfortunately, the latter, yeah, because
sure.
Each scalar has to implement the is active on this. But we can probably start like something like that. If user specifies this on a scalar that doesn't implement this feature, it would basically just skip.
Sure. So, right. So it maybe even the one is like, if we started with Kafka, at least from an example of like, it's very, I don't know enough about Go and how it works. It feels strange that we'll copy and paste the same logic across them all, but it might even be fair. And Shashik, since I know you want to do this, if like, we could almost start with what this would look like in Kafka, just keeping in mind that before we merge it in, we'll just have to have a discussion, which is like, can we do this everywhere else? And maybe it's a copy paste exercise. And we pretty much just say, I mean, there's a lot of this actually today that is more or less copy paste exercise where it's like load in the metadata. So I could just see there just being some consistent, very standard pattern here in is active, which is before you go to whatever line here is telling you to scale the thing, we just do a check, which is like, hey, actually is the metric we just found, in this case, lag, like is lag less than the threshold that they defined? And I think the way we're talking, if I'm understanding this right too, it would even be that in the spec that we have, we might add another property, like a first class property that is something like minimum threshold that other triggers could all pull from.
Might be a good idea to copy, maybe implement 3 of them, just copy paste across all of them, and then see what you can split out what's common.
Sure.
Okay, so maybe if you can please open the PR, or maybe like comment on that issue, and maybe like show us what you have done for the Kafka bit, and then we can think about like, okay, this is like good enough to be like replicated across all the scalars or something like that. It would be great.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Great.
Yeah,
thanks.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks for joining. And yeah, the scenario is absolutely sound. So any other questions you have, Shashik, while we're on the call?
No, I think, yeah, that was basically it.
Sweet. Great. Yeah. And if you need anything in the meantime as well, whether if you're not on it already, Obviously, GitHub issues are great. I'm really bad at looking at GitHub notifications, but I'm pretty good at looking at Slack stuff. So you can reach us all in the Kubernetes Slack channel as well if you have questions throughout this week or next, if you start to spend some cycles on it.
Okay, yeah, I'll join that for sure.
Sweet, awesome,
yeah,
thank
Jeff,
you.
Jeff, could you please post that issue in the agenda if you haven't done that?
Yeah, yep. Let me grab that one.
So Shashik can then take a look on the issue and probably comment over there.
Yeah, I'll paste it in chat here for convenience in case you don't have the notes open, but I'll pop it in the meeting notes too. Great, that's all the scheduled agenda items. Anything else anyone wants to bring up while we're all on the call before we meet again on November 10th, after 2.0 has gone out, and we are all going to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed earlier in the morning, or earlier in the evening for many of you.
I have one more thing that I forgot to mention. So we finally sent the designs for the merge to print. And yesterday I got a FedEx notification that something is coming my way, which was not the idea. So normally there would be a website where you can order the merge yourself. But it sounds like I'll be doing a lot of shipping soon. But it's almost finished. We have stickers, t-shirts, and hoodies.
And this is all CNCF funded, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Great, awesome. Perks of the gig. All right, that's fantastic.
Finally.
Tom, and if you want that evangelized at all, I'm more than happy to amplify it, but I also don't want you to be overwhelmed with all the people who want swag. If we've learned anything from Hacktoberfest, it's that people will do anything for a free swag.
Oh boy.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining. And yes, fulfilled by Tom. You are very reliable, even in pandemic times. Thanks, everyone. It's great to have, especially some of you folks who haven't joined before. Hopefully this was useful. As mentioned, feel free to reach out on Slack or on GitHub. And we hope to see a few of you in a few weeks and have a bit of a celebration on KEDA 2.0. So great job, everyone. We'll chat again soon.
Thank you very much. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.